welcome to the Sugar and Crumbs kitchen. Sorry we're running late tonight. We're just trying a new technical thing and trying to get it set up in Ryan's kitchen and here. So how clever are we, Simon?
I'm not sure yet, Carol.
No, neither am I. But hopefully we're going to be live in our kitchen, and hopefully we're going to be live on Instagram. Are we going live to YouTube as well, Simon?
Yes, we should be
and we
live.
Should be live on YouTube.
We should be live on them. But...
in fact, we don't actually know where we're live. But hopefully, let us know. Give us those thumbs up. Give us those love hearts. Let us know that you're live. So like I say, my son is going to be in his home kitchen. He's going to show you how to make sourdough bread tonight. And Simon is on camera. I'm going to go into the office and I'm going to try and answer comments for you. And Ryan's wife is on. Oh, John says we are. Yoo-hoo! So so Rosanna is going to shout out some questions to Ryan, because obviously we can't interact with Ryan. But what I want to do is tell you what is going on in the Sugar and Crumbs kitchen for the rest of this week. So tomorrow we've got Karen Griffiths going live at 11:30. She's going to show you how to make a pineapple upside down cake and pina colada ice cream, which is so yummy. Our flavoured ice cream is delicious. So, and then the other thing I wanted to tell you about, our online cupcake bouquet class starts next week. Now, it's a fabulous class, and even after the class is finished, you can still join it. It's an 8-hour session. We've got a fabulous audience, a fabulous group. The group is amazing. It's a hive of activity. They're buzzing in there. They're so excited. They're counting down their sleeps, and so are we as well. So if you're wondering what we're going to make in that class, we're going to make one of these. So different people are going to do different skills. Some are going to do 7s, 12s, but I'm going to try and encourage everyone to do a 24. So this is amazing. So Simon, do you want to go to the overhead and have a look?
Yeah.
So there's the overhead. So that's what I'm looking for our class to make. It's certainly achievable. These are like beginner stage flowers, and I'm going to go through them with you step by step, okay? So easy ones, the rose. Then we're going to use nifty nozzles, the Russian piping tips. Then we're going to do a little bouquet on here. So we're going to have a great session in class. So if you want to book onto the class, which camera are we on, Simon?
Front, Carol.
Right, thank you. So if you want to book onto the class, just go to the Sugar and Crumbs website, sugarandcrumbs.co.uk, go to classes and book to the online class. Then send me a message through Messenger, and then what I can do is I can send you through your T's and C's, and we can get you involved in the group. That's what we're looking for. Do not worry if you join after the event, because you can follow the whole live, and I'm going to be going in there doing top-up lives as well. So it's going to be amazing. Anyhow, I think that's us over and done with. So are we ready to hand over to Ryan, Simon?
He looks ready. Yeah, I think so.
And just to say hello to John. John?
Hello, hi everyone.
Good. Are we coming up on all streams, by the way, John?
Not sure.
We're not sure. So we're hoping that we are live to Instagram, are we?
Not sure.
We're not sure.
We're not sure.
No, well, I'll go and have a look in a moment. So we're hoping we're running
Possibly
live
not.
to Instagram. We're hoping we're live to YouTube, but it's a new experience. So Ryan can hear me. Hi, Ryan.
He can't.
Hi.
Hi. So we're going to go over to Ryan now. Enjoy your night. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Listen, thank you, Sugar and Crumbs HQ, for the lovely intro. Really interesting to hear about all the lovely things going on there. And just before I start, I'd just like to raise a glass, everybody watching. It is Thursday night. It's some very, very different times that we're living in. So here's to the NHS. I think all due respect, they're doing a fantastic job. And hopefully we'll be out of this situation in no time. But that brings me to the reason why I wanted to do what I'm doing tonight. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of, a little bit of an intro into the objectives that I'd like to achieve. We're going to have all kinds of people watching tonight. We're going to have some chefs, we're going to have some master bakers, we're going to have some wannabe bakers. And my job as a professional chef, what I want to achieve tonight is I want to show people that even with my experience cooking for, vast numbers, restaurants, hotels, cooking around the world, I never stop learning. And the last few weeks, it's really funny actually, because I've got this really bad habit of walking around the house with my top on tonight. We've got a big crowd. But I've been teaching my brother how to make sourdough. I've been teaching my sister. She's actually baking better sourdough than me. So it's made me realise a few things. And one of those is that I want to break down tonight. One of the main barriers is the fact that, You go on Instagram, Facebook, you see these master bakers. Look at the oven spring on this. Look at this pattern. I mean, does it really matter? I don't think so. I mean, I'm going to teach you today some simple techniques. I'm not going to use fancy equipment. I've actually made some loaves that are going to make some chefs cringe a little bit because I've got beautiful loaves. I've got some loaves with colour. I've got some flat loaves, some nice dainty loaves, and I want to show you that you can bake you can prove in a fruit bowl, in a cup. What else have I been doing here? I've got a professional basket. I've got a mixing bowl. And you know, you really just don't need all of this stuff that people tell you. You know, I was having a chat with a chef the other day, and this chef in particular was saying, "Oh, you know, I'm doing this, and I do this for 3 hours," and that's all great because the skills that I'm going to teach you tonight are very important. They're basic skills. You're going to go away. You're going to think about what I've said, and in 2 weeks, you're going to be thinking what I've said was not right because you'll be doing your own thing, baking incredible bread. So with that said, anyway, I think we can get started. I'm going to start by telling you what we're going to achieve. So stay on this camera, Simon. Ladies and gentlemen, sourdough bread. So as you can see, not the highest, not the biggest. I'll tell you what, Simon, can we just have a drop down on that camera, on camera from the top, please? Everybody see that? So as you can see, we've got a nice pattern, got a nice, oh, that's the sound you want here. With a nice bread underneath, nice and hollow sound, tells you it's nice and airy and light. And again, just give that a squeeze, and you can see there's a lot of flex in it, which tells you it's lovely and chewy. So camera, if we can go back to the camera on me, Simon, all of that loveliness came from this. I don't know if you can see very close. This is Bert. Now, a couple of the chefs at work, they've got Shaniqua, she's made from grapes. We've got Colin, he's made from a pear, and Bert was made from a Delica pumpkin. And you're probably thinking, what does all this mean? Well, if we can go, Simon, if we can drop down to the worktop, drop down camera again, I'm just going to talk you through. Everybody seen one of these before? Exactly, so it's an apple. But very, very interesting about this apple. I can show you another apple. Different colours, both apples, look like apples, taste like apples. Now what's special about these two apples is, I don't know if you can see in here, there's like a nice little dusty area around the core, and you get this on the bottom as well. And you can see this here and here. Now, you get this on grapes, and you also get this on pumpkin. Now the reason that I'm telling you this is because if we get these babies and we smash them down and we leave them in a bucket, that yeast is going to eat the sugar and use the liquid, and it's going to ferment, and it won't take you too long to realise that it's going to produce alcohol. Cider, ladies and gentlemen. Now, without getting to kind of Heston Blumenthal and Sheffy on you, it's the same process, voila, with sourdough. So we're taking today one of these apples and we're going to blitz it down. I'm not actually going to blitz it down. I've already blitzed one down. That's going to give you this, a brown gooey like liquid that I did this morning. Nothing really happening. Smells kind of jammy, appley, discoloured. Everybody see that? Quite smooth. Now what we're going to do with this is we're actually going to leave it for about 48 hours to ferment. And what's going to happen with that is it's going to ferment just by using that yeast that we talked about here. This is called flora yeast. Doesn't really matter if you forget the name. All you need to know is you blitz an apple and you get this. We're going to leave it on the worktop at room temperature with the lid ajar. And you're probably thinking, he said he wasn't going to get too difficult. I'm not. So if you don't have one of these jars, how about one of these? Simple glass, dishcloth from under the sink, nice and clean, elastic band, voila. You've got something very, very similar. You can use a vase, you can use the toothbrush holder cup upstairs. Just make sure it's clean and make sure there's a nice little bit of covering just so nothing can fall in there. So that's day one. I'm going to put a piece of paper down in a minute, and I'm going to leave it here while I get the next stage ready, and you'll be able to screenshot that because I'll leave it there for a minute or two. So like I said, let's just run back. Apple, yeast, blitz it, Take the seeds out. I didn't mention that. Just cut the seeds out, blitz it up, and you get this puree. We're going to leave that to ferment for 48 hours. After 24 to 48 hours, I would go 48 hours at room temperature. You're going to go to the next stage. Let me just get my notes. So the next stage, after 48 hours, which will take you to day 3, you're going to add 1 tablespoon of flour. And what's going to happen is that yeast is eating the sugar, makes a slight alcohol, and then you're going to add some flour on day 3. You're going to add a teaspoon. You're going to leave it until day 4. At day 4, and day 5, and day 6, and day 7, you're going to add, I don't know if you can all see that, a tablespoon. This is day 3. You're going to add a tablespoon of water, preferably at this stage from a bottle, so there's no harsh chemicals where you live that the local water authority put in it. Just because it's at a delicate stage, it's not very strong, we want that bacteria to breed. What we want to do is we want to give it the best chance of life. So a nice clean jar, some nice unbleached flour, which I'll come to in a little while. And then we are also going to day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, add 1 tablespoon of flour, 1 tablespoon of water, and we're going to build that up. Now once we get to day 8, as you can see here as well, so let's go back to day 1, brown liquid.
Sorry, just a question, Ryan. Someone's asked earlier on about the apple. You wouldn't peel that? You can just keep it as it is? Is that right?
Yeah, the magic is the fact that the yeast is only on the outside of the skin. The food that the yeast needs to grow is on the inside, which is the sugar in the apple when you bite into it. But the yeast is on the outside. So yeah, you want to take this little bad boy out. Just cut the seeds out in the middle. Don't be too particular. Chop, 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 chop. Throw it in the blender. Whiz it up. And that's what you get.
Perfect. And can you use just about days or 2, 3 beyond that with your flour? Can you use gluten-free flour?
Unfortunately not with a starter. I mean, I want to keep this really, really simple. And like I said, there's going to be a few chefs saying that's not right, this is not right. I'm at home at the minute for the next few weeks and have been. I want to break these barriers down and make it really, really simple for people at home. I want them to just use what they've got. And the unfortunate thing is the yeast eats the proteins in the flour, and the flour basically produce glutens, which form a structure which is going to help the bread rise. So I'm sure you can. I've tried making gluten-free sourdough before. The unfortunate thing is it isn't gluten-free sourdough. It becomes something more like rye bread and quite hard in texture. I hope that answered your question. So once you've done this until day 7, let's go back to that. You've added day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, 1 tablespoon of flour, 1 tablespoon of water. You're going to be getting close, ladies and gentlemen, to something that looks a little bit. If we can go to the opposite camera, please, Simon. You're going to be getting something that looks a little bit like Bert, as you can see here. And you're probably wondering what the elastic band's for. I'll get to that in a little while, but the main thing is on the day of baking, which I'll come to towards the end of the recipe, you want to get it out of the fridge in the morning, and I'll explain why we put it in the fridge later. And you want to give it a spoonful of flour, wake Bert up. He thinks it's feeding time, gets really excited, bubbles up. And when it bubbles up like this, double in height or 3 times in height, that's when you take a scoop and we make the bread. And when we put him in the fridge, he just slows down. He knows it's not feeding time. Bedtime for Bert. He slows down, relaxes, and it just slows everything down really and keeps him a little bit more healthy. So there's a question about the gluten in the flour. I'm using a flour at the minute from Sugar and Crumbs, Nelstrops. So I am a Manchester boy, born and bred, living in London now for 13 plus years. But my mum's been sending this down for me, and this has been making absolutely perfect bread. Breaking down a few more barriers, which I'm sure the scientists and big chefs out there will disagree with for their specialist reasons or their perfection reasons only, but about the protein levels. Usual plain good quality flour. Try and stay away from basic or cheap flour. Usually find harsh chemicals in there to stabilize it. Bleach sometimes. I know it sounds awful, but it's an edible bleach they add to keep it nice and white. You want to go organic if preferable. to make your bread. Really as fresh as possible. Don't store it for a long time. Go out, buy your flour, keep in your cupboard for 3 to 4 weeks, and try and use it as regularly as possible. So if we can drop down to the camera again, I will talk a little bit about why I baked some of the breads before we go through Simon. So if we can drop down to the worktop camera, that would be great. Now there's some people who are going to look horrified looking at this, especially some of my chef friends watching it, most importantly some of my team. So this one I threw in the oven as hard as I can. I didn't shape it. You see all these techniques on the internet saying I pull it up and fold it like this and I crisscross it and that. The bottom line is I'm going to teach you today that it's all about trapping some bubbles in there and leaving it to ferment for a good amount of time. The bubbles will grow over time by you folding it over a period of time. You're going to get those bubbles. As long as you follow the recipe that I'm going to give you, you're going to achieve something quite special. And people are probably looking at this horrified, going, oh my God, look at that. But again, if you can listen, you can hear it's got that lovely crunchy bread. I made this came out of the oven at 11 o'clock this morning, so fresh bread should be, still warm when you buy it. This has still got a little bit of life. It's got a nice little, but the shape. Now people will tell you on Instagram and social media, and I am being very positive here. We're in a world of perfection at the minute, but apart from giving you a nice area to butter, or I don't know, an expectation of what you've been taught, really, there's nothing more than that. I mean, if you get this, for example, you're going to get a nice bruschetta or a crostini. But if you're looking for a shop-bought bread, then maybe you can prove in something else. So this one, I literally stretched out the dough at the last minute. I didn't put it in an oven dish. I proved it in a basket, and then I just put it on the dish, let it on the oven tray, let it relax, and it just came out really thin. Now, you're probably looking at that and people will be like, that's flat, that's not going to be very nice. But I'm actually going to show you how nice it is. If you can just go to my face camera, please, Simon. This is a nervy moment because I do not know what's in here. So I'm hoping there's bubbles. I'm hoping there's a lot of space and a lot of air, because that's going to tell you that it's got a nice chew. If it's airy, it's going to be quite light and crisp. So just hold on, I'm going to cut into this bad boy.
Ryan, while you're doing that, sorry, another question. When you're adding the flour to the starter, are you just placing that on top, or are you stirring it in?
Sorry, what was that? Can you read that again?
When you're adding the flour to the starter, are you just placing that on top, or are you actively sort of stirring that in? When you're adding the flour to the apple and so on every day?
I mean, get messy. If you can look at the tabletop camera now, please, Simon. I put this in a nice clean jar just so I could show you the rise. But the jar that I had it in before you don't really want to wash it. You've got a natural organism in here from that flora yeast that's going to be eating flour, and it's going to be getting really dirty. So when you're mixing it from stage 1, stage 2, you're going to be like, Ryan's didn't look like that. But it doesn't matter. This jar should become incredibly messy. As long as you're not sticking your fingers in there or any dirty spoons or anything, this organism just needs the liquid that you're adding, the flour, and that's it. Just give a spoon, mix it up, try and get rid of the lumps. And I hope that's answered your question.
So you mix it with a spoon. Okay, perfect.
If we can...
sorry, can I just ask
Sure.
what flour you're using for that? Is it plain flour or?
Yeah, so if we can keep on the camera facing the worktop, please, Simon. I've got a Nelstrops flour here, plain flour, 1.5 kilo, 100% English wheat. It's a strong flour. It's milled in Cheshire, where I'm from. But again, you just want a good quality. Look on the label, it should say great for baking bread. You're looking for quite a high protein level, but again, don't worry about the science bit. A good quality plain flour should make good quality bread. So I talked about that loaf that I was cutting, guys. What do you think of that? I would say that was, I'm not one to stroke my ego, but it looked pretty sexy. I mean, when you're looking at bread, this was the one that we will go through the process of making the bread. People talk about the crumb. Look at the crumb in this, look at the holes in it. I mean, Jesus, like the holes in it, all I can see is an obstacle to lose some butter. Don't know if you're like me, I'm from Manchester, so I like a little bit of butter on my crumpet. So more big holes for me doesn't really make sense because I'm putting that butter and it's going straight through. So what I look for is, and it's a very, very personal preference, I don't think there's any right or wrong. This crumb that people talk about is the texture that you see here. So nice big air bubble. As you can see, the spring, and then just goes back to shape. Spring, back to shape. That shows you that there's a brilliant springy structure here. You might be able to pick up some shine here. That tells you there's a nice sugar content. And then again, you've got that nice golden crust all the way around. I mean, come on, if you went to a nice restaurant and you got a nice little bit of smoked salmon on there and cream cheese or some prosciutto and capers, you'd really, really be happy paying for that. I mean, that was risky business for me being a chef. There was a lot riding on that right there. But I'm pretty happy how that turned out. But yeah, the crumb structure again, it's all about these holes. I like a few big bubbles, a few small bubbles, but ultimately you want to be able to press the sourdough and spring back out. I mean, it's funny actually because I was taking the mickey out of my sister Laura. You might have seen her do a couple of lives with my mum. She pulled one of her first loaves out of the oven, and I looked. I mean, do you want to go to my face a minute, Simon? This was the look. What is that? It was not a good look. And you know, I was looking at her going, Laura, you know what? Like, it looks crunchy. It looks. And she cut it open, and oh my, in the middle, it was better than this. I don't know what she's doing, but once I teach you this recipe, and you know, you get to the stage of baking, and you're like, oh, it didn't look like Ryan's. It doesn't matter. It's like your family. It's like your friends, people you've known all your life. Everyone's different. We've got different ovens. We're using different flours. We may go in the shower and then come down 20 minutes later than what we thought and not stick to the recipe. That's okay, but it's going to have not a detrimental effect, but it's going to have an effect on your bread. But just realize that it's personal, it's a journey. If something's not working, think about what you've done and just try and work it out. But get excited about bread, you know, get excited about cooking and get excited about getting this kind of sexy crumb. So let's pop that aside. Guys, if you have got some questions about the process, I'm just going to have a little tidy down here, and then I'm going to start going through the recipe.
I think we're quite good on questions.
Okay.
We'll have a look if any come through.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, before we mix, what I'll do is, if we can stay on the camera on the worktop, please, Simon, that would be great. I'll talk a little bit. I've got a couple of different stages. Of the sourdough. So I'll go through the mix in a minute and go through the ingredients. But before I do that, I'm just going to leave this here on the worktop so you guys can screenshot it. I hope that makes sense and I hope it's the right way up. Sourdough starter, blitz 1 apple or pear, leave to ferment 24-48 hours. Now you're probably saying, why 24-48 hours? Well, you know, if you're like my mom and you've got the back door open constantly, she's got big dogs, guys, don't think about it, you know, she's got the back door open constantly, but she has got the heating on full blast. I don't know, it's just something grown up that she does, but in her house it would probably be fermented in 12 hours, it's that hot. But in some people's houses, if it's a little bit, you know, temperature is a little bit low, it could take up to 48 hours, and that's why we've got that variance there. Now you're probably looking, well, 28 to 48 hours, what am I looking for? I'm looking at it, it still looks the same. The key is to have a little smell of this. And you should be smelling a little bit of vinegar. You should be smelling a little bit of sourness, maybe a little bit of, you know, hoppy alcohol. As my brother said to me, he said, he rang me up, he said, I don't know if this is right. I said, why? He said, it just smells awful. Well, hey presto, you're basically letting some yeast eat some sugar and turn into a little bit of alcohol. If anyone's ever took a whiff of vinegar, it's not the most pleasant thing, but just realize it's a journey that's going to go to this stage. It will start smelling a bit like raw dough, and then once you get to good old Bert's about 3 months old now. We do have some others at work. I know my head pastry chef, she's got one called Lazarus, I think because she's brought it back from the dead so many times. Very, very sturdy, these guys. If you don't feed them for a month or two, they'll be fine, but you just have to give them a couple of feeds to bring them back to strength. I would say once you get to this stage, you know, you're talking nice bubbles, nice shine on the top. but you're really getting kind of like notes of like honey, wheat. You're getting I don't know, like sometimes you get a bit of, when you add the flour, you get like a bit of Play-Doh, and it's not the most attractive smell. But yeah, you should be seeing a nice healthy starter, especially after a feed. I fed this about 4 o'clock. You should be seeing a bit of a rise, a nice shine, some nice bubbles, and a nice fresh smell of honey. And the honey smell for me is a sign of a good quality, healthy starter. So,
just a quick question for the apple. Would it hurt if the apple was left to ferment 48 hours, just to be sure?
well, you know what they say about wine, it gets better with age. I think, the longer you can keep yourself from, rushing forward. Yeah, I mean, I left mine when I started one with one of my chefs at work, but we started this way back in January. I think we left it for about just over 48 hours, to be honest. So yeah, if it goes too long, that'll be fine. But just realise that apple is going to be eating all that sugar, and there's going to be a point when there's nothing left for it to eat. Hence why we add the flour, which then acts as a food as it grows and gets stronger.
Great. And your sister Laura's on. She just said, "Can you lift up the jar a little bit higher so everyone can see the bubbles in the stuff?"
I hope that is close enough.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm going to now talk you through. Hopefully you've got this. You can go back and screenshot it later on. We're now going to go through the next bit, which is going to be our sourdough bread. And again, really, really simple recipe. This recipe produces this nice crunchy bread. So I'm going to talk you through it. So we're talking here sourdough bread, 300 grams of water, not milliliters. A lot of bakers, we work in grams. Couldn't tell you the history why. There's lots of things I do as a chef that I've just been taught, and unfortunately I know lots of stories. Fortunately, I know lots of stories, but unfortunately, I don't know the story behind this one. 100 grams of starter. I've underlined starter because it just reminded me that people will read a recipe and go, a starter? I've been told to make a leaven, or I've been told to make a mother. It's all the same thing. You generally read bread recipes, and a lot of people get scared when they hear this kind of chefy baker language, but a starter, a mother, and a leaven, they're all exactly the same thing. Now, 12 grams of salt. You're probably thinking, 12 grams of salt. That's not going to be good for the blood pressure. But what you've got to realise is, when did you last eat a full one of these? I would give it a pretty good go, but only at the weekend. Now, the only thing that's making the flour, the yeast, and the water taste of anything is the salt. And that 12 grams spread between there is a lot less per serving than what you think. So, do not worry too much. And just to remind you on that point as well, guys, it's not just because we're, locked down and the world's a little bit of a different place recently while we're baking sourdough. We were baking bread like this thousands of years ago with the starter dough, with the mother. This is how we used to do it. Game of Thrones, I've seen a few of these being thrown around. I don't know if they were as delicious as the one that we're going to learn, but this was the original way. This is why they're good for eating today, good for toasting tomorrow, and potentially good for toasting and turning into breadcrumbs on the third day. So if you get up the next day and you're like, oh, it just doesn't keep like that Hovis or another big brand in the supermarket, well, it's not going to, because it doesn't have a load of junk in there, keeping it good for a week. And that's kind of the beauty of it. Making a nice ferment on a Thursday night, taking it over on a Friday night, getting up on that Saturday morning, popping this bad boy in the oven. Your house smells delicious. Your neighbours are going to hate you forever, and you're rocking out with one of these for your family. I mean, what's better than that? So I'll just leave that there while I grab a few bits. Sourdough bread, 300 grams of water, 100 grams of starter, 12 grams of salt, and 450 grams of flour. And again, I'm using this Nels Drops plain flour, nice and simple, nice big strong flour, and you will be getting a beautiful bread. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about a few of the ingredients, then we're going to get rocking. So this is what we just talked about. Got 12 grams of salt, 450 grams of flour, 300 grams of water, And now we're going to get mixing. So first I need me a mixing bowl, which I don't seem to have anywhere. You know, the mixing bowl, is that going to be big enough? Maybe I can use my fruit bowl. Maybe just before we do start, maybe I should tell you, show you a couple of the vessels that I've been using to proving. So this one, this is my fruit bowl. It's a standard fruit bowl. This proved in there. So people will tell you, oh, but I went on Amazon or somewhere like that and they didn't have any of these fancy bad boys. This is called a baton or a baton, I think. And this looks a little bit Game of Thrones, looks a bit medieval, looks delicious. Your friends are going to come around and say, what is that? And you're going to say it's a baton, and then they're going to say, what is that again? But it's a traditional bread basket, usually made from softwood. This cloth you cover in flour. So it's nice to, when you do the proof in the morning, it kind of just drops out and doesn't stick. So if you can get one of these, great. If you can't, just know you can produce something like this in this bad boy. 12 pound fruit bowl from local shop.
And Ryan, with the salt, can you use table salt instead?
100%. I did say I was going to take a few of the basics, a few kind of like the basic chefy bits out and kind of break it down, but I do like sea salt. I like the purity of it. You can see here it's sea salt, it's nice and crumbly. I do think if you over season something a little bit, which you wouldn't with this bread, it's a nice enjoyment to have a bit of sea salt, but you have a little bit of stabilizer in salt, table salt, that makes it a little bit harsh if you over season. So I tend not to use it, but for this recipe, yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, and can you use less if you wanted to, or do you need that amount of salt in it?
Personally, I mean, for me, this is a restaurant quality, top end supermarket quality bread. I would personally say make the recipe. It doesn't taste salty at all. I mean, like Rose, my wife, you're always saying with a few things that I make, is it a bit salty, is it a bit, because that's my job. I keep things restaurant quality on the edge, really at the top of their seasoning to keep them super tasty. But this is a pretty standard recipe, and I think the salt isn't really out of this world.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, you can reduce the salt. I would try the salt, and if it's too much, then drop it a gram or two and keep dropping it. And if you don't put any salt in it, I think you'll find it does lose a lot of its beautifulness.
And are you sifting your flour for this as well?
Yeah, maybe I'll get in trouble for this, but a few people that are watching, the fact that I hold a very heavy, well-experienced title as executive chef. No, I don't. You can do. I mean, sifting your flour, I think, you're going to bash this dough around a little bit. Sifting is a mechanical action to usually get a little bit of air within the flour, whereas you'd look at a chemical reaction being bicarb or a raising agent. So some perfectionists, I am a perfectionist in many ways, but I haven't been. I've been producing good bread, so I think you can work out the answer yourself, guys. So a few more vessels. This is a standard bread tin. I can't remember which one I proved in that. I think it was this bad boy that actually went a bit round. As you can see, great crumb as well. But yeah, you can see the preference. Fruit bowl, professional, standard loaf tin from the supermarket. But you can pick whatever you've got. I would literally, here's one of my mugs, this bad boy. If I wanted to make some nice mini sourdoughs, why wouldn't I just go through the process, make 4 or 6 little, before, when this is a complete dough, chop this into 6 and prove in a cup. I mean, why not? You've got to be, some of the great dishes that I've created have been from messing around and breaking the rules. So let's go through the process. Did we find a bowl, Rosie?
This one there? Is that okay?
I think it may be too small. Let's go with the fruit bowl. It could be a little bit dangerous, but let's do it. So what we need to do, Simon, if we can keep on this camera on the worktop, we are going to add a little bit of dirt. We're going to add on the recipe 100 grams of starter. Now the reason we put the starter in first is so that we can add the water next, and we can kind of emulsify and loosen up the starter, make sure it's well incorporated into the water, which gives it a better chance of incorporating into the flour. Whereas if you mix the water and the flour and just throw a big scoop of this on top, it wouldn't be well distributed. So that's the reason why we go within this process. So I've got my fruit bowl here on the scales, and we are now going to add 100 grams. And if you can see that, guys, just lifted some of it out, and you can see it's got that like aero consistency. You see those bubbles there? Absolutely delicious. And again, wherever you go, and that's because it's a living organism. You know, you've got that yeast in there. You can see as I pull it apart, little bubbles. It's very, very active. There's a little bit of a float test. You see that one there? Really big ones. There's a float test, and it says that when you're, not only will it rise, you put an elastic band there so you can see where it had risen. Doubling in size is the minimum that I would be ready to bake. And if you feed it, if you pull it out of the fridge in the morning, you know, you want to be feeding this every 2 to 3 days. Feeding it means that you want to take a spoonful out, 2 spoonfuls out. Once it's active, say you're not going to bake, take a spoonful out, or take 2 spoonfuls of this out and add a spoonful of water and a spoonful of flour back. And that's going to keep it nice and active. But if you get to the weekend and you've only fed it on a Sunday and then a Wednesday, you want to put it out on a Friday evening, give it a nice little scoop. Just got a little bit too much there. Nice little scoop of flour. It's going to be hungry. Leave it at room temperature. Temperature is going to help it wake up, eat that flour, and give you a nice rise. At which point you can take a scoop of this, pop it in some water, and if it floats, it tells you you've got a nice aerated starter, which would be great to bake. I don't really do that often because I'm experienced, but you know, it's just get that experience. I have got clean hands, ladies and gentlemen, if you're wondering why I'm getting my fingers involved there, scraping it off. And this is just for my family. So I'm at home like most of you right now. So I'm doing it my way. My rules are a little bit relaxed. It's the first time in a long time I've not had an apron on when I'm baking. So here we go. We've actually got a little bit more in there. Let's take some out. Meant to be a professional. Oh, come on. Come on. It's just playing tricks on me now. There you go. We'll settle on a fine 100 right there. So, as I talked about, lose the scales now because the rest is measured out. There's your starter. You see some nice little healthy bubbles here. And again, the smell. It smells delicious. It smells really honey-like, light. It's almost got little toffee notes. And now we've got the 300 grams of water. I'm just going to pop it in there like that. Bang. And then, instead I'm not going to use any fancy tools, I do have a little mixer. But, ladies and gentlemen, most of us have got some of these. Just get them in there, give it a little bit of a mix. And like I said, that starter is going to now emulsify with the water. It's going to help for a nice even distribution into the flour. And you can see as well, you get all these bubbles, shows it's nice and active. Hand acting like a little bit of a whisk in there, and you can feel it kind of goes really nice and smooth. That's when it's mixed enough. And this is the point when it gets a little bit controversial, because people will tell you, I put the salt in an hour after, and I do it in the last fold, and I do it like, the bottom line is, this conversation is because this is a living organism and this is a preservative. Now, when I say a preservative, you throw this stuff on the car window when it's icy, it will melt the ice. You throw it on the floor, you won't slip on your backside in winter. This stuff will sting your eyes when you swim in the sea. You know, it's quite an aggressive thing. And when you put this into a living organism, hey presto, guess what? It's like getting salt water in your mouth. It doesn't really like it. But if you do it all very quickly, you know, if you pop this in here and you go and have a coffee and chat to your neighbour, not very good. But if you pop it in here like this, nice little mix straight away. I'm sure if my pastry chef's watching this, she's going to be like, he's so wrong. It doesn't really matter because I'm baking sexy bread.
And Ryan, the water that you added, is that straight from the tap, or is it sort of room temperature water? Does it matter?
So again, as I advised in the beginning, you just want to go to the face camera, please, Simon. I will very panically look for a cloth. The reason I told you that it would be good to use bottled water in the beginning is because, again, you've got this real gentle starter that you're trying to give a lease of life to get strong. So bottled water, you know, shop or bottled water, mineral water, it's as natural as possible. But yeah, I'm using tap water right now. Where I live down in south of London, the water's not that harsh. I know where my mum lives up in Cheshire, you get a little bit of a chlorine taste. It's just to do with the hardness of the water, and the harder the water, usually the more chlorine they put in there. And chlorine's a chemical which doesn't really do us a lot of damage, but it can affect your starter and slow it down. So it's all dependent, really. If you taste your water and you're like, it tastes a little bit like the local swimming pool, I would say use bottled water. It doesn't have to be mineral water as such, like I've just suggested. You could just use purified water from the supermarket. It's very, very cheap. But the water here is fine. So I've got a very, very strong starter, and I've been using tap water fine. Seems to be getting good results. So go with that. So Simon, if we could pop down onto the worktop camera again, that would be great. So again, I said I need to do this quite quick because Mr. Bert doesn't like a lot of salt. So again, going to get messy. I remember first time teaching my brother to do this about 3-4 weeks ago, and he kept saying, "Oh, it's all sticking to my hands. It's getting everywhere." Well, guess what, mate? You're mixing dough. So get in there, get messy. We've got time. You can see this little technique to go from the edge of the bowl and just pull the flour in. It's a funny one, actually. A few people might say, well, why are you doing it by hand? Why don't you just stick it in the fancy KitchenAid or mixer or something? And the reason is sourdough, actually, the texture, these bubbles that we were talking about, the more you beat it, the stronger the strands of gluten, which, if you can imagine, loads of elastic bands, they're all just sat there in here now. And the more you mix it, the tighter they get, the tighter they get, the tighter they get, until they become very tight. And that means you're going to get a real chewy bread, almost like not an enjoyable bread. So you want to be quite gentle. This is never going to see the bread mixer. It's never going to see a whisk. You just want to, and as you can see, I've just mixed that. I wonder if I can show you there. Just pulling that away. You can see little strands. We've hardly mixed it, and already, that's the natural gluten proteins working with the water in the starter, already forming a nice relationship that are going to pull together, trap gas in there as the starter ferments, and trap these little bubbles, and that's what gives you that nice spring that you can see there. So how much do you mix it? As well, guys, there's maybe a few questions coming up about hydration. I'm really not going to talk about it tonight. There's people that talk to me about it that don't know anything about it. The bottom line is, go onto Google, go onto the internet. It took me about 6 different people and 6 different experiences to learn about hydration. This recipe, I would just get stuck in. I would bake it. If it's good bread, in your own time, go and look at hydration. The bottom line is, with hydration, it's a measure that bakers use, that the wetter the dough, the more airier, the crispier the crust. But right now, as a beginner, do we really need to be focusing on this? I don't think so. We just want to make some good bread, impress the family, learn a new skill. I mean, what's sexier than freshly baked bread on a Saturday morning? We literally bake and eat half a loaf, an hour after it coming out of the oven, and then think, oh my God, what have we done? We're not going to eat any lunch. So you can see now, guys, it's quite, this is not a very high hydration dough, and that's why I'm teaching you this one. As time goes by, you can maybe, the original recipe was 300 grams of water, 450 flour. You could replace some of the flour with water. So you could do 320 grams of water and go 430, and just kind of like substitute each by moving along. But I'm going to teach you a bread recipe here that's easy to work with, so that you don't end up with a situation where you're like, oh my God, I made it, it was just too difficult, I couldn't work it, because you will have to pick up a little bit of experience along the way. So as you can see, I've been mixing it. When do I stop? 1, when it's definitely not coming off my fingers, and 2, you can see the edge of the bowl here. It's a good sign with bread that if it's sticking to your hands, great, but I'm lifting this out here, look in the bowl. Yeah, it's still messy, but it's not sticking. It's just come away from the bowl, and that is a perfect sign that you've got a nice bread mix, and you can see there's still bits here that are not mixed. Get messy, guys. Look at this. So I'm just going to give my hands a little wash, and that dough. This is another little barrier that I'm going to break down. Lots of people talk about an auto lease. Oh, my sourdough, I give it 2-hour auto lease. I give it this. I mean, auto lease. If you ask people what an auto lease means, it means the same as what I'm going to tell you. It means mix all of this stuff together, guys. Put a cloth on it like this, yeah, and just leave it for a period of time. I mean, what do we need all these fancy words for? Mix it all, leave it, put a cloth on it. That's what an auto lease is. So the auto lease, going into a little bit more depth, is a time when you mix the dough, and as you can see, there's little dry bits here. If you put this under a microscope, it would not actually be mixed too much at all. So you're really allowing this flour to sponge up that water and really hydrate itself, and that's going to give a nice kind of even consistency throughout the bread. So if you come across auto lease, Ryan never mentioned auto lease. It's just a big fancy word that means mix it all up, put a cloth on it, and leave it for an hour. So I hope that's easy to understand, guys. And after an hour, we're going to end up with this little bad boy. So this little bad boy, this is actually, because time's gone on a little bit, this is actually about two hours old. But it's up to you guys, it's one of those. As I said about the 24 and 48 hour thing, you know what? If you're going to take a shower, or the kids are being absolute nightmare today, or someone just give you a call, your parents got to nip round, pick something up, something's happened in your life, fine, you come back, it's an hour over. Carry on with the process, carry on with the techniques that I'm going to show you, and the characteristics will be specific to your bread. Again, if you start off with what I've just shown you, and you end up with something like this, then what's wrong? It may not look like something off Instagram or something out of a fancy book, but you also haven't been doing it for 25 years, so does it really matter? I know I like sexy bread. So if you're achieving that, that's all that the focus point is for.
And was that a damp cloth that you used to cover the dough?
Mm-mm. No, it wasn't. Just a cloth, just to stop. You do actually want to form a skin, which I'll come to in a minute, which will happen naturally. It's really just to keep, I don't know, I mean, you've got a ferment here, fruit flies, these little kind of like natty things that go around, wine when it's hot and stuff in the garden. You just don't really want anything to fall in here. So it's just a cloth, just to stop any breeze forming a thick crust. As you can see, this is 2 hours old. Got a nice little bubble here, nice bubble here. And if I bring it a little bit closer, I hope the lighting's all right. You get little tiny bubbles, surface bubbles. This shows a couple of things. You've got a really healthy starter, and you've also got an active ferment. And like I said, there's no artificial yeast in here. Your starter is your rise and time. And like I said, go down the supermarket, get yourself a nice sliced white any time of the day, whenever you want, if that's what you want. But if you want something really sexy for the weekend, it takes time. Good things come to those who wait. So this has been left for 2 hours. And then, tell you what, I'll show you a little bit of a technique of what we're going to do. I hope you can see that. Again, these are called dough scrapers. Got this one for my birthday yesterday. My wife didn't know that I owned this one. But both really good. A little bit of awkwardness, but I've got two now. So if anybody wants one, you can have this one that I got for my birthday. Yeah. So basically, guys, we talked about before we get the dough, it has this fancy auto lease, and then this happens after an hour or two. I would say you want to leave it for an hour. I'm going to show you this one. It's 2 hours old. And we're going to do the first technique that's going to get some of these air bubbles that are already naturally happening. And we're going to trap some more in there. And you're going to see the dough rise. Now I'm going to show you here that we're going to do this 3 times. So let me just backtrack a little bit. We made the mix. We got this bad boy. This bad boy sits here for an hour or two, whatever. Like I said, if you get busy, it's 2 hours. An hour is pretty good. 2 hours later, it's going to look a little bit like this. So we're going to start pulling those gluten structures and slapping some of that air in there. And we're going to do that not with flour, but with water. Now, a few people, you can all see that, Simon, if you keep on this worktop, you'll see them splashing some water. Again, if there's a few chefs watching, they'll be cringing right now. They'll be going, no, you've got to use what's he doing? He should be using one of these spray guns and stuff. Well, hey, listen, guys, it's lockdown. I'm not going out buying a spray gun when I don't need to, because I'll just slap a bit of water on the worktop. You can do this on a wooden worktop, a marble worktop, a Corian worktop, or whatever worktop. Just make sure there's plenty of it, so it's nice and wet. And wet this bad boy as well. I'm going to use this just to impress the missus, because I got it for my birthday yesterday. Okay, so this top bit, basically, the only important bit I'm going to show you needs to be on the bottom, because this is always going to be the top of the bread. This is this. This is how it's going to go. So again, we're going to wet this. Wet hands as well, because the water is going to act like the flour. I'm just going to turn it out real quick. Scrape it from the back. Out we go there, and as you can see underneath, it's all wet. I hope you can see that. So as you can see underneath, can everybody see that? So got some nice little bubbles here. I'm going to wet my hands so I can move it around. And people will be like, oh, I don't want to break it. Get a little bit rough with it, you know. Throw it over here like this. Move it around where you need to. Make sure there's plenty of water. Now this technique that I'm going to show you is very, very important. I call it the slap and fold technique. Or you can call it the I'm really angry technique, or the I really don't care about this bread technique, whatever you want. But got some bubbles in here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go slap. I mean, how fun's that? Come on, get to this 3 times, guys. And then you're going to, that bottom bit's still on the bottom, you're going to pull it up again, slap. And then you're going to go right to left, left to right, right to left, left to right, right to left, left to right. I hope I got that right. Wasn't too confusing. And you can see as well, it's kind of like you can see some knots there. That's the gluten working to form a nice little chain that's going to make a nice strong environment for those bubbles to grow and rise your bread. So I'm then going to go slap it over like that, bring my bowl back here, splash a bit more water in there. And then this last one I like to pull it one over and then pull it like this. Tuck those sides in. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a little bit wetter, is the top from before. I hope you can see this bit here. If you get that bit, just tuck it. And if you're like, oh, it's just sticking to my hands, a bit more water is needed. And then hopefully you can see this. You're going to get it, and then you're just going to slap it in there like that. At this point, on the first roll and fold, you're just trying to form some gluten structures to form a nice kind of like structure for that as it's fermenting and producing that gas. It's just a nice little environment. We're going to do this 3 times. So we've made the beginning bit, which is the mix. We've left it for an hour or 2. This is the first bit. You're going to repeat this 3 times. This was once. So we're going to do it again. So fast forward. We're going to make the mix, leave it for 1 hour or up to 2 hours. You're going to do that bit that we've just done. And then 2 hours later, you're thinking, oh my God, this sounds horrific. Now, the first time you do it, it sounds like a long time, but it's not horrific. Because if you're in the house all day on a Saturday and you're doing this and you're like, oh, I'm going to go make a cup of tea, just going to do my slap and fold real quick. And then 2 hours later, you've had a shower, you're going to come back down and you're going to say, oh, I'm just going to sort of washing out and do a few slap and folds. If you're focusing on this all day, it's going to be a little bit hard work. But if you're just popping in and out the kitchen, 3 or 4 times, it's just going to become part of your day. And that's really the perspective you want to be using. You want to be looking at it from that position. So 2 hours has passed. It's going to look like this, but risen. I'm going to show you that technique one more time, really quick. And you'll have to kind of stop and rewind and go back to it. It's a nice wet dough scraper. We're going to pull it out. This top bit needs to be on the bottom. I'll show you one more time. So this is 2 hours later. And the thing is, you might look at it and say, but it hasn't grown. It hasn't got bigger. This is just about aging and starting the process and trapping some air in there. The real magic's kind of going to happen between this point and resting overnight. So you've made the mix. You've done your first roll and fold. You're going to come back to it. And then you're going to slap some air in there. Slap some air in there. And you can already see it looks already keeping a nice little shape. I'm going to wet my hands again because that's acting like the flour. And you can go right to left, left to right, right to left, left to right. You can see little bubbles coming out. Right to left, left to right. Hope I got that right. Double checking myself. See all these bubbles here getting trapped. This is what we're doing, trapping air. And then over, one at the end. And then again, be quite aggressive. You can see as well, look at that wobble. You can see there's air in there. See the little bubbles here. It's a great, great sign. And that's why we do this process a couple of times. Then lift it up real quick into the bowl. Get your fingers out of it. And then wet your hands. Tuck it in like this. And that's fold 2. So we've made the mix. We've left it an hour or 2. I'm going to stop the tap because that's annoying. We've left it an hour or 2. We've done the first roll and fold. 2 hours. Second roll and fold. And then 3 hours later, got this bad boy. Got this meaty little monster over here. So you've got big air bubbles here. I mean, look at that. I don't know if I'm showing my age here. Feel young. But it's got the whole blancmange thing going on. A little bit of unset jelly. That is a brilliant sign what you're looking for. One more, just for the people that got pretty excited about that. Yeah, that's it. I enjoy that bit. That's got to be my favourite bit. So this has had 3 roll and folds. So we made the mix. Sorry to keep going through it. But we've done the first roll and fold, 2 hours. Second roll and fold, 2 hours. And then this is the third one. And then you're going to leave it for 1 hour. So this has had 3 folds. And this is what we're going to call the pre-shape. So this starts happening, it's going to start sticking. So you need to clean this up a little bit. Do that by putting it in the sink and forgetting all about it ever happening. So bang. And again, surface nice and wet. Get rid of any of this stuff here. Bang, bang, bang. Okay, and again, I can't stop doing that. Jeez, love that. I don't know why, but it's delicious. And now you can see, look at this. So this is now, what did we say? 1 hour, 2 hour, 2 hour. Best part, 5-6 hours later, you can see already, like, it's got that whole wobble thing going on. Bubbles everywhere. And this is, again, just this slapping thing going on. So this is what we're going to do after 3 roll and folds. We're going to do what we call a pre-shape. And you're thinking, this guy said this was going to be easy. This is easy. You know what you're doing. If you're at home now, you've got a couple of days on your hands, get your ferment going. 7 days from now, this is you guys. So we're going to do the same thing, but you're going to see a bit of a different reaction because you're going to see that big slapping technique over here, over again. I mean, look, what? Oh my God. Do you see that? What was that? I do not know. This is alive. And then over again, bang. And then, and look at all these bubbles, guys. That's these bad boys. The crumb that we were talking about before. This is what you want. If you're seeing this, then you're seeing this. That's important. So you can already see, if you've got this going on now, like you can just go to bed and be like, I'm gonna wake up in the morning, bread, a bread expert. Like this is it. So pre-shape just means what we've done before, but we're gonna leave it out. So this is the top bit as always, and then we're gonna make sure it's nice and wet, like that. And then we're just gonna move it over here. I'm just gonna tuck it in. Oh, look at that bubble. Did you ever think you would be 35 years old getting excited about bubbles for the first time you started blowing bubbles around with one of those little cheap bubble blowers when you're about 6? It's the same thing, nostalgia. So, I mean, let's get it right. I get paid to play around with Play-Doh all day. as a fully grown adult and get paid for it. And that's something special. So you're going to leave it like this. This is my pre-shape. The only difference is we're not going to put it back in the bowl. We're going to cover it with a little bit of flour on here. Like, let me get my flour out. So at this point, I like to use a bit of a coarser flour. No branding needed, but I like to use a wholemeal flour. And the reason is we're going to stop using water now, and we want something. If we put white flour on here and leave it for half an hour, it's just going to soak in there because that's the finest grade of flour. It's just going to soak in there really, really easy. If you get a little bit of this wholemeal flour, look at this. You can see it's a little bit coarser. It's got little brown bits in it, and this is going to act as kind of like, you don't want to say like a grit or a stone because it's not that coarse, but it's definitely not going to absorb in there as fast as white flour is. I'm going to give it a nice big healthy number on top of there. And the reason we call it a pre-shape is because we're actually shaping it and then letting the natural structure sit out of a bowl and just get a nice shape to it. So again, start working it, tucking it all in underneath, and you can see already, yeah, see what's going on? So that's what you're trying to achieve. You're trying to get that round shape, even if you're going to put it in a rectangle prover. And then you're going to put some flour. You put that flour on top of there, and the reason we do that is because we're going to get a cloth that looks clean. Yeah, I hope it is. I'm going to pop that on there. I'm just going to leave it. The flour's to stop this sticking. We're going to leave it for an hour, room temperature. And then an hour has passed. Voila. And then we are going to lay it in. Which one, guys? Professional, supermarket. Professional, supermarket. Let's go supermarket. Hopefully we've all got something like this lying around. Now, you pop it straight in there, you're going to have some problems. So I don't know if people do this, but I find it a little bit easy just to put a little bit of olive oil in there. And if you haven't got a nice little pastry brush, which I did, but I don't know what it is, just get fingers involved in there. Nice little bit of olive oil. Yeah, you don't want this stuff kind of like dripping everywhere. This is just to lubricate the whole thing to make some flour stick to it. It's not to flavour it, but if anything, why wouldn't you use petroleum jelly, Vaseline, a little bit of fairy liquid? Well, obviously it's not. Oops, on the floor. It's not going to taste good. So, if anything, the olive oil, if it needs to add something, it will add a little bit of flavour. And I like to plonk a nice big amount in there like that. Knock it around, and then I don't know if you can see that. Just going to kind of jam it around a little bit like that, and just give it a nice covering. It's almost like, I don't know if you made chocolate fondants. Sounds really bad. My mum making so many cakes all the time. I don't know, what else would you do with that, Rose? What do you like? Just generally cocoa dusting things, souffles. In my world, it's a bit more like souffles and chocolate fondant, but I don't know, maybe all the bakers watching, this is a technique that you do with lots of things where you would use butter and then a little bit of cocoa or a little bit of dusting of sugar. As you can see, nicely coated. So we've done the pre-shape. It's been sat there an hour now. And then we basically just want to do the same again. We just want to kind of make the structure really tight. I'm going to pop it in here. So I use a little bit of water at this point. We kind of want to flip it upside down. It's not going to stick because we've got this. And then we're going to form it nice and tight, and we're going to pop it in here. Now, this is the point when I was teaching my brother. Sorry, Wes, if you're watching. And he was a bit like, but don't want to knock the air out of it and stuff. This is the only bit where you probably have to be a bit more gentle. And being gentle doesn't mean because it's just going to stick to you. What I mean is just like no massive slapping and stuff. We just want to tie it up a little bit. So I'm going to show you. And guys, again, listen, I seem like I've got all the answers for this. I've been baking sourdough for about 3 or 4 weeks. And that's why I wanted to show you this. I wanted to show you that I'm a professional of 15 years, leveling out, and this can be you. Maybe I've got a bit more experience with bread. But sourdough's can be a bit of a tricky one. But I've found this recipe amazing. So I'm gonna flip it over like this. Yep, so that's upside down. We're just going to tighten this up. So you're going to use flour, guys, with this one. So we're just going to go like we did before, over, but we're not going to slap it as hard. Then we're going to go over. As you can see, we're just trying to tie it up a little bit. A bit more flour on my hands, get me quick. Then we're going to do that plait again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If your hands are sticking, 6, 7. And then you kind of just want to pop it. Let's get this a bit tight actually. So I flour my hands up, pull it over like this. Then we're going to pop it upside down in here, hopefully. So this time, instead of wetting this, a nice bit of flour upside down in like that. The reason we do it like that is, again, not very professional looking, but still, this will give you a delicious loaf. Dust a bit of that excess flour off. And as you can see, let's do that wobble again. That wobble is everything. Got a wobble, that's like a brick, put it in the bin, start again. But if you followed everything that I've said, you shouldn't be getting any bricks. But again, look at that bubble there. And that nice kind of blancmange consistency. Now, done this purposely, left it a little bit open because it might happen. So you can look here, you can see it's all nice and floured, and that's going to be good overnight. But then you see this bad boy here. This is what you need to be looking at. So you want to get a bit of flour on him there, a bit of flour on your fingers. Just tease it back a little bit of flour in there, just so he doesn't stick too much. Tease it back, bit of stickiness there, tease it back, bit of flour down there. I hope I'm making this really easy for you guys. It's, you know, I'm obsessed with cooking, I'm obsessed with teaching. Just since this whole kind of like recent events in the world have started happening, I've just been making so much sourdough the last few weeks. I can't get enough of it. And you're probably thinking, yeah, do you want to be eating that much sourdough? I mean, natural sourdough, part of the balanced diet, really good for you. It's got natural leaven, natural kind of raisin agent in there, flour, and if you're using a bit of whole grain, great source of fibre, some water in there and stuff. And I mean, what's not to like? I mean, you put this in your mouth, and the stuff it does to your mind. I mean, it's like fuel to a race car. You know, it just makes you so happy. The smell, getting up, and I think right now that's the important things that we need in our life, things that make us happy. And this bad boy is just about to chill in the fridge overnight now. So this is where we're at. Take note of all this mess. Very, very important. Standard kind of bread tin. We've done a mix, left it for an hour. We've done 3 roll and folds with the first roll and fold 2 hour space, second roll and fold 2 hour space, 1 hour space to the last third roll and fold, and then an hour between the third and the pre-shape, and another hour between the final shape, at which point we get to here. Now this, ladies and gentlemen, goes in the fridge, uncovered, nothing on top. Stack it where it's not going to fall over. If you get it out in the morning, it may have risen here and here. Don't be expecting this big bad boy to be doing much. We're literally letting this ferment slow down, do its thing, eat the flour, produce this lovely sexy gas that's going to give us loads of air bubbles, so that when we pop it in the oven in the morning, it will go in the oven. I'm actually, don't know if I need to ruin this one and just cut it just to show you. Don't know if it'll help. But basically, this goes in overnight. Now, I got up at 7 o'clock this morning, put the oven on, temperature 240. Lots of techniques to cook. People talk about this Dutch oven technique, which is done in one of these. So this bad boy, people put some parchment paper in here, and then in the morning they'll get this bad boy, tip it upside down in here, put a slit in the top of the bread, usually about a centimetre, 2 centimetres deep. They put this on. Now this specific recipe, for this recipe that I've given you today, takes 35 minutes to bake at 240 degrees. So if you're baking in one of these, if you're like, I've got one of those, but it's not that shape, that's fine. Do it in a round shaped one, do it in a half shaped one, see how it comes out. If it If it works, if it's small, then maybe make a double recipe. If it's a bit too big, you're going to get a bit more of a thin loaf like this. But as I said at the beginning, does it really matter? It's got that crispiness and that bread. It's not the shape that you buy from the supermarket. Who really cares?
Do you know what size tin that is, Ryan?
Now, I'm going to try and be a little bit chefy here. I would probably say that is the best part of a 20 by 10 centimetre. Just from general experience. I don't actually know, but I won't be far off. I was doing a little bit of guessing with my superior at work, and I was guessing something. I was 2 centimetres out one way and 3 centimetres the other way, so you can trust me or not. But yeah, go 10 by 20, 10 by 25 maybe. So that goes in overnight. You can pop it in the Dutch oven technique, like I just said, into a cast iron pot, some parchment paper at the bottom, pop the lid on. You'll bake for 35 minutes. You're going to bake for 15 to 20 minutes with the lid on, and then you're going to take the lid off and do the remaining 15 or 20 minutes, whether you cook it 15, 20. It all depends. You need to check your results. My oven is a mid-range, you know, it's not too fancy, but it's got a good seal. It's about a year old. You know, if you've got a really old school gas oven, you know, the door seal's a bit dodgy and stuff, I would go with this technique. Otherwise, the way I've been baking my bread is to just get a nice tray like this, standard kind of tray. Pop it in the oven for about 10 minutes as it preheats, gets really, really hot, and then you're gonna bring it out, pop a bit of parchment paper on it, turn this bad boy upside down on there like that, and then you're going to get this, but a raw format, and you're going to get the knife, which is very, very important. It doesn't have to be serrated. It's really, really sharp. Got this yesterday for my birthday, so really happy about that. Heel to tip. You don't want to start giving it all this before it goes in the oven. You're just going to ruin all your hard work. Heel to tip. You want to sit that there and just one, and you're going to, oh my God, what have I done to it? Looks like you've just kind of murdered someone's friend. But you really want to go a centimetre, but don't go, oh, I'm going to sort that out and that. You're just going to ruin it. Think about what you're doing. You've got to live and learn. One big swipe. And it might flatten out a little bit. That's fine. That goes straight into the oven. I forgot to tell you, as the oven was heating up, you should have another tray like this underneath with the kettle boiled. And when you open the oven door, your raw dough goes in like that, bang. And then the tray underneath, you can just quickly have the kettle near the oven, pour a nice glass or two, maybe 300, 400 ml of water. It's really important. It creates a little bit of steam in the first process, helps it to rise, but also helps it. It's a good technique to have a steamy start of the baking process, just to help formulate that nice kind of like crispiness. I don't really care for aesthetics too much when it comes to bread. I want something that tastes delicious, big crunch, loads of colour, really sexy, really chewy, and I want to go back for more. That's what's important to me. Not something that looks good and tastes rubbish, but something that's all about the flavour, all about the bite. And that's it. So like I said, guys, you're gonna pop this on a tray. You're gonna pour some water on the tray underneath it. Keep that oven door open for as little time as possible. You're gonna do this one this morning to bake this, for example, which was similar. I think I did 20 minutes with the lid, 20 minutes on a tray, and then with some water underneath on 240 Celsius. And that's it pretty much. So this is going to go in the fridge overnight now. As you can see, these bubbles going pretty crazy already. In the morning, I will bake that. And if we can flash back to my face cam, please, Simon. That kind of brings us, guys, to the end of my basic tutorial. So I hope you've really enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, which I think Rosie has just got a question, then I'd be happy to answer those while I'm just doing a little bit of tidying up. So yeah.
So one question, with this recipe, could you make sourdough rolls instead, and how would you go about doing that?
Sourdough rolls.
Or is that not something you've done yet?
So basically, Simon, if you can just pop back down to the actual camera that's facing the worktop, and if we're there, so on that last, after the third fold, what you would do is, if you wanted to make rolls, I'd just get really experimental. I mean, guys, you're probably wasting, 5 hours of your day? If you make a double recipe, make a normal loaf. So the recipe that I showed you before, make a normal loaf. So you've got one of these as a backup. But when you get after the third roll, when you come to the first pre-shape, cut this into 6. Try and keep that skin side down, and then do a mini version of those little roll and folds. So you've got 6 little rolls, for example, and then I would probably do the flour on top, let it sit for an hour, shape them again, and I would potentially just sit them, instead of doing them in these, oil, flour some cups like this. This is a standard sexy mug. Don't know where it's from, but nice size mug. Maybe not like a Lewis Lit mug from or something random, or a Nescafe narrow. You want a nice big round open mug that kind of replicates a nice kind of mini mixing bowl. So it's going to come out there nice and easy. But yeah, baking times, I don't know. If you were to split that in 6, I think you could be looking at, the rolls done in 15, 20 minutes. But again, why don't you try the recipe, see how it goes? I mean, I'd love to hear about it. So happy to read some comments tomorrow, guys. If you'll get up in the morning, you've got some questions, I'll be sure to be checking that out. You want to go back to the face cam, please, Simon? Any more questions, guys?
No, I think everyone's very happy. I think everyone's really enjoyed it.
Guys, I'd just like to say again, it's been an absolute pleasure. And like I said, really wanted to come home here tonight, not to act like a real kind of highly trained chef, but just to share some of my experiences. I'm constantly chatting to my mom. I don't come from a family of, bakers and butchers and all this, amazing story. My mum's fascinated with baking. My sister makes amazing cakes also. My brother started cooking. And I think what better time, guys, to be at home now, enjoying a little bit of vino, enjoying life, picking up some skills, just enjoy life, guys. That's all we can do right now. But it's been an absolute pleasure. If you have got some questions, please do send them in. I'll try and answer them on the feed. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for tuning in. Sugar and Crumbs, thank you for having me. Simon, thank you for your hard work. To my wife over here, who's been enjoying every moment of this, I hope, for like the 900th time in the last 3 weeks. But yeah, get cooking, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. And I'm done.
Thank you very much, Ryan.
You're very
We're
welcome.
going to go back over to Sugar and Crumbs. So we're back on our camera, Simon.
Yes, we are.
So Ryan.
That was amazing. Thank you, Ryan.
Ryan, did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I loved it, yeah.
Good, fantastic. So, are we back on this camera, Simon?
Yeah.
Fantastic. What did you think of Ryan then? He's my youngest son. Isn't he absolutely fabulous? And what are you ladies like? You really know how to flirt, don't you? So wait till Ryan reads those comments. Ryan, you have no idea what they've been saying about you. My eldest son's been watching as well. So's my daughter Laura. So what a fantastic live. So we just need to make sure that we can encourage Ryan to come back again. I think he explained everything clearly, calmly, wonderfully. Thank you, Rosanna, for joining in as well.
Go on, Rosanna.
You're welcome.
Do you want us to come back to you, Ryan, or are you done now?
No, we're done, but thank you
You're
very
done?
much. It's been an
All
absolute
right, then.
pleasure.
So we're going to disconnect Ryan. Do you want to disconnect on the phone, Simon?
Yeah.
So just to say a massive big thank you for joining us tonight. It's lovely to have my son in the kitchen. It's the second time he's been in the kitchen, albeit he was in our true kitchen many years ago. So you need to go back and have a look. And I'm sure what I'll do is I'll see if I can get Simon to find it and put it up on Flashback next week if we can do. And see if we can do that.
It's probably coming up anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But hopefully we're going to see lots of sourdough bread. He did mention the flour. We do sell the flour. We do sell wholemeal flour as well. We do sell yeast, albeit you don't need it for this recipe. And you know what? Give it a go. Laura, my daughter, has just been learning with Ryan. They've been on a WhatsApp having lessons with my eldest son, Wesley. And you'll see that they've been learning together and they are so chuffed on how they've learned to make sourdough bread. It's absolutely amazing. Anyhow, I'm going to let you guys get off now. Have a peaceful night. And I will see you tomorrow at 11:30 with Karen Griffiths. But let me just show you this bouquet again. Go to the overhead, Simon. So this wonderful bouquet here, we're going to be making this in our new online class. Now we've got an online class that goes live on Wednesday the 29th of April. Okay, this is what you're going to make in class online. Now don't be intimidated. Some ladies are going to make a 12, some are going to make a 7, but I'm going to try and push all the ladies to try and make this 24 cupcake bouquet. It's fabulous. I'm going to show you how to make these pretty flowers. They're all going to make it. Do not worry. If you decide to join the online class, we'll be back over here, are we? So if you decide to join the online class after the 28th, that's fine, because the class is in the group forever. So it's going to be in date order, so you'll be able to watch it, and you'll be able to, and you know, it might even be better for some of you to just sit, watch, study, and then go back, rewind, replay again. And some of the ladies who are on the online class are going to do that exactly. They're just going to join in for the day and watch it. And then I've got all those who are going to join with me. So if you want to join this class, it's £50 online. You then join the special group for it. The group is yours, and I will be going into the group often to show you how to do other decorated cupcakes as well, and also different types of bouquets as well. And I've also got a sneaky one that nobody's seen before, but I'm going to leave that a few weeks before I share it with my members in the group. So everybody who's in the group, once they're in and they pay for that online class, they don't pay for any more lessons. Everything I do in that class then is free there on onwards. So if you're thinking of joining, get joining ASAP. So it's a beautiful cupcake bouquet class. It's on the Sugar and Crumbs website, sugarandcrumbs.co.uk. Flour is on there in baking ingredients if you want flour. If you want yeast, that's in there as well. And I am going to go now because it's time for my bed as well. Have a super night. And thank you, Simon. Did you feel lonely in here all by yourself, Simon? Or did you love the peace and quiet?
It was nice. I was trying to be quiet. So
Right, thank you very much. Cheerio, guys. Bye, Simon. Thank you.